Welcome to the Elokus podcast. This is class number 11 in the discourse Vaidaber Moshe al Roshei Hamatos, which is the 10th discourse in the great book, B'Shashe Hekdimu 5672. And this is going to be class number 2 in chapter 39. So chapter 39 in the general book, which is the third chapter in discourse number 10 of the general book of B'Shashe Hekdimu. Okay. We are holding over here in the last thing we were discussing was he's trying to develop the idea how the different levels that exists in Seder Ishtalshalos in the evolution of worlds, in the chain-like evolution of worlds, in the chain-like evolution of Sphirot, is the positioning of something being higher and lower is not only due to where it stands in the chain, but rather also it's fundamentally different. It has an essential quality. So he explained it in the earlier chapter regarding worlds, the difference between the worlds above Atzilus, the world of emanation versus the world of emanation, how it is essentially inferior, the world of Atzilus, or the other ones are essentially superior. And then he explained also, even in the realms above Atzilus, he explained how the gradations of Adam Kadmon, primordial man, and so on and so forth, are higher essentially than the ones below. But then there is also the other point, and then he continues on in this chapter 39, to begin developing in the Spheros itself how you can see this differentiation in Chachma and in Bina. How Chachma is essentially different, higher than Bina. Chachma, which is wisdom, Bina these are the two intellectual faculties. So one way of seeing it on a more superficial way is that Chachma is the same, it's not fundamentally different than Bina. These are two stages in the way the mind processes an understanding of any idea, processes an intellectual idea. First, it conceives the idea in its generality. So it kind of it develops the nucleus of the idea. And all the details are kind of hidden and concentrated in it. That's the stage of Chachma. And then you just, then comes the details. Then you open it up and start analyzing all the aspects of it. And within that, we would understand that there's a certain sharpness that's there when you're concentrating on the inner point, where all the details are still part of a point. There's a certain sharpness and a certain brightness. It's still a little aloof, it's still a little far from you, but there's a certain sharpness and brightness in the idea. Once you start getting caught up in all the specifics and all the particles and all the parts, like you lose the forest a little bit for the trees. You don't see the grandeur, you don't have that excitement, that richness and the sharpness of it, because you're now already focusing on specifics and on details. So then there's no fundamental difference between the two, other than in the Chachma is stage 1 of conception, and Bina stage 2 of conception. And Chachma, being that the Chachma first is the generality and then the specifics. So since you have the general before the specifics, there will be more light in the general, and then come the specifics, and the light is kind of reduced. The energy is reduced. The brightness is reduced. That would be the old way of thinking. What he is coming over here in this chapter is to explain, no, that the experience of Chachma and the experience of Bina, of understanding, of wisdom versus understanding, is fundamentally different. Chachma is a perception of the essence of the idea. You're experiencing it, the substance of whatever it is that you're conceiving in your mind. The Bina is already on the outside of it, and the experience of the Bina is to know the descriptions of something, or to know the the form of something, the tzir, the definitions of something, and as we learned in last class, you know the borders of something. You're describing it by its borders and by its limitations. You know its properties, but you're not really in the Bina, you're not experiencing it, you're experiencing everything about it. And that's what it means to grasping, we learned. Just like in Bina, there's grasping. In Chachma, nothing is grasped. You didn't grasp it in your mind. Your mind is kind of lost in it. But in Bina, you're grasping it. And in order to grasp something, just like physically we learned, we can only grasp something by reaching for its ends. You try to pick up a box, you try to pick up a book, you try to pick up a bottle. You can't pick it up in the middle of it. You have to stretch your fingers out and reach, or stretch your arms out and reach the ends, or a suitcase. You have to get to the ends of it in order to be able to wrap your arms around it to pick it up. Same as when the mind tries to grasp something, it has to delineate, it has to describe the borders of it. And from the borders, that's where you can grasp it and take it. And that's what Bina is. Bina is understanding everything about it, but not necessarily it. The knowing of it itself, it's really true experience of it is, just a little example of that is a lot of times you can get information about a person and you really have people who know the person. They give you all the information about him and you're so sure you know this individual. And then you finally go into a meeting and even though everything everybody told you is true, but when you walked out, you feel so different than what you went in thinking when you're going to meet the person, because you with all the descriptions, it's only the descriptions. If you're really having a true connection with another human being and you're sensing their soul, you're sensing who they really are beyond the limiting definitions of their being, you walk away with a whole different appreciation of who this individual is. You got to know the person completely different than just hearing about them and writing a description about them. That's the difference between the Chachma and the Bina. If that's the case, we can understand that Chachma, which is an experience of the substance of any idea, is way above and beyond the Bina, which is really on the outside of something. It's not on the inside of it. Okay? That's what we learned till now. V'zeu inyan, and now we're just going to go back one line. Masha Moichan, the Abba, and this is based on this idea that in the Chachma experience we experience it, but in the Bina we're only, which means the essence of something, and therefore Chachma is an very much an essential experience. A lot of times it's explained in places that Chachma and Bina, Chachma is called father and Bina is called mother. We're just going to have it in a moment now. Now, father and mother, the difference between them in the production of a child. And the reason we refer to that is because all human emotion and all emotions are a product of the intellect. It's based on what we conceive and understand in our worldview, in our reality, in our mind, the way we appreciate, the way we conceive the world around us. That will produce the various different excitements and drives that we have as we're driven emotionally away towards things and away from things, the likes and dislikes of a person based on our perception of reality, which is developed in our mind and our intelligence. Okay, so therefore that's called parents, because they're parents to the emotions. However, Chachma is called father and Bina is called mother. What's the difference between a father and a mother in the creation of a child? The father gives us the essence, the seminal drop that the father draws from their brain or beyond, from spiritually, from their soul itself, is the essence of the human being. The mother already gets into the description. She describes the child. She develops. She pulls out the details and develops the form of it. She forms. The father gives a formless essence. The mother forms that substance, and that's the period of pregnancy, which it forms. Now you might say that the forming of it is not that she's giving a new form that she is imprinting onto it, but she's rather drawing out a hidden potential form that's in the father. That's true. But still, in the state of the father, the details of it are not pronounced. What's pronounced is just the substance of it, of the child itself. So you see the same idea. Chachma is essence, and Bina is tziyur. Bina is the development or the image of a person. a lot of times you'll see in parents that with children, that a father can be much more accepting of the child, no matter what the child's behavior is. It's my child, and the father could be accepting. The mother a lot of times gets very, very caught up in needing the child to be in a certain way, and if the child is not in a certain way, she can get very frustrated and very upset, because the mother is connected more to the form of their child, and the father is connected more to the very beingness of the child. Now, it's not going to be always the case, but I think in a lot of times that you find that differentiation. Okay, now based on this idea that Chachma is essence and Bina is already outside essence. Now that makes the experience of Chachma that it is essence, and it knows the essence of every idea. It experiences the essence of everything, makes the Chachma incomparably different and higher than the Bina. And for that reason, it will also put Chachma in a level of its own, that we say about Chachma, that Chachma is not part of the evolution of the Sfirot. The Sfirot work that one Sfira evolves from the next. Simply speaking, from Chachma evolves Bina, from Bina evolves Das, from Das evolves, or from the Chachma and Bina through the Das evolves the emotion. Das is knowledge, and evolves the emotion, the kindness, and the severity, or the love and the fear, and the various different emotions. It's a process of it. So he's saying, however, that really Chachma is not considered part of that evolution chain, which means that the relationship of Chachma and Bina is one of more of distance. We think it's very close, but we're going to see soon that it's not. That the transition from Chachma to Bina has a certain leap that the Bina to the emotions do not have, and that is because the whole system of evolution is, once we are in the outside, in the existence of something, not in the essence of something. In the existence of something, there are stages in that there is an evolution in the relationship to that existence, of how we relate to it. But in the kernel and the substance of the essence of it, over there, it's essence or not. There's no evolution in essence. We'll understand that much better as we begin to learn. Which is the mochen, the level of mochen, the level of the mind energies of Chachma. Which is called Father. Helamaila mishtalshus is above the chain-like progression. The inyan mishtalshus is ilavayalon, because the entire idea of a chain-like evolution of cause and effect, Ila and Alul is cause and effect, but cause and effect, there's different words for cause and effect. Ila and Alul is one phrase that is used a lot in philosophical, in the terminology of philosophers, Maimonides, Reb Saadia Gaon, all the early philosophers, when they talk about the systems of the spiritual worlds, or the divine versus the creation, they speak a lot about, in philosophical terms, the concept of Ila and Alul. But there is two terms for it. There's Ila and Alul, and there is Siba and Mesayvev. Now, Ila and Alul and Siba and Mesayvev could be both translated loosely in English as cause and effect. However, there is a great difference when we use these terms, and this is very important to understand over here. When we use Siba and Mesayvev, we mean a cause and an effect, that the cause and the effect can be far from each other. We know that A causes B or caused B, but the causing is that A is responsible for B, but it doesn't mean that there is a state of dependence where B is very very dependent on A, or A is leaning in and almost entering into B to create B, or to affect of B. It's like they each can inhabit their space and they can be distant from each other. That's cause and effect. Ila and Olol is a form of a relationship between a stage A and a stage B, a cause and an effect, where the effect and the cause are very interlaced and interdependent one on the other. Especially the effect is leaning very heavily on the cause. And even when the effect is affected already, in other words, even when this second stage emerged and it's already in its full presence, you still can sense the presence of A inside B, fueling it and substantiating it. And if the stage of B would lose the input of A, that is, A is leaning into it, B would disappear completely. It's kind of like it very much has to be connected to its source and feels its source and recognizes it consciously. The same is also that's when we're talking about the olol. The olol is the B, the effect has the cause inside of it and basing itself or dependent on the cause. It's also that in the effect, I'm sorry, not the cause. In the cause, you can already see the effect brewing inside the cause. In other words, the cause doesn't create the effect outside of it. It creates the effect inside of it. Like a mother creating a child. The mother creates the child, although the mother is the cause of it. You know, we can put it this way a little bit. Like Siba and Mesuva of cause and effect, we will say is the father's relationship to the child. We can use more cause and effect because you don't see in dad the child, even though it's a seminal drop. It doesn't exist. A man is not walking around with all of his children, seminal drops, if we might say before. He's just him. At the time of his marital union, as he's going to father a child, at that moment he produces this substance, this reproductive semen or whatever it is of the time. And now, in other words, it only begins to exist once it leaves him almost, or at least in any identifiable way. And then once the child, and then it leaves him, and it's not dependent. It sits in the mom. It doesn't need father. The father can travel to China, to the other end of the world, and leave the mother completely. He can impregnate her and disappear forever. And even after the child is born, even when there is the father is not necessarily there to hold the child, support the child, as much as mom is needed. Mom and her child have a much far more interdependency. First of all, during the time of pregnancy, the child is born already. The child needs the mother's milk. Now, the child needs mom to be there very, very much in the early stages of life till he or she can stand on their own feet. So, in a sense, that would be the difference between using the term. In both of them, it's a cause and effect. You can't have a child unless you have a father. There has to be someone father the child. There has to be a cause. But over there, we call it Siba Mesayva because the father could be more distant than the child. But with mom, we're calling it Ila and Olol. Ila and Olol, the relationship is that they overlap each other. The Ila, the cause, inserts itself like the mother nurses the baby and cuddles the baby and takes care of the baby after the baby is born. And then the baby exists, the olol, the effect, while it's in the cause, is even before it emerges, you can find the baby inside the mother. So that's ilaviol. So now he says the Inyan ishtalshalas ilaviol, this whole idea of evolution, of cause and effect, but in the way of closeness that we mentioned. Shayach rak b'bchinas metzias levad. This is only possible when both of them are in the existence of something, in the existing element, in the shape and form of something, or in the properties of something, in the properties of the development of something, you have cause and effect, the ilavi olo thing. Masha enkein bedavar atzmi, which isn't the case in the essence. Ein shaykh inyan ilavi olo. We cannot have that there is an evolution of a cause and effect happening within the essence. And he's going to explain why not. So this is going to be a very deep exploration, but I think very enjoyable and very, very meaningful as we're going to learn it. The Inyan Ilava Olol, he says, the whole concept of an Ilava Olol, a cause and effect of a in the form of Ilava Olol, right? And one of closeness. There's two. He's going to give two possibilities of the relationship between the cause and the effect in a format of Ilava Olol, two complete different mechanisms. In both of them, is to say there will be the idea that there is the cause and there is the effect, and the effect is dependent on the cause, and the cause is leaning into the effect. That is going to be there, but still, the substance of the relationship is going to be there are two kinds of evolutions of cause and effect. And he says, what are these two? And both of them are only possible from Bina and onward, but you wouldn't be able to apply it to Chacham. Why? Because Chacham is essence, and essence is being completely inside the very, very substance of something. And the whole experience of cause and effect in both channels of both formats of cause and effect can only exist when you're on the outer peripheral of whatever it is, and not when you're in its essence. As we're going to see again, these are words, but they're going to make a lot of sense once we're going to get through it. One possibility of cause and effect is that the effect is a different substance than its cause. But although it's a different substance, it has its origins inside its source, and then later it's born. Because let's go back to the mom and the baby. The mom that's giving birth to a child, the child that's in the mother is not the substance of the mother. I'm sure the mother is going to give a lot of herself in developing her child, but the substance really came from a stranger, came from a father, came from someone else. It was impregnated and implanted in the mother. She has now something that's not her inside of her. But the child is now inside the mother. It develops in the mother, and then it moves out of the mother. So now, not in every case, on a more subtle case of the birth of spiritual energies and so on and so forth, it's not necessary. Truth is, it does follow. Bina always follows the process of impregnation by an idea that later, it will be there. But even if you hypothetically not every Iluvi Olol has to have an impregnation element. Okay, so even if we don't have that, just imagine something germinating something other than itself inside of it. Just that's the way it's created. There's it, and then it produces something inside of it that's not it. And something that's inside of it is first in a hidden state and slowly develops, and then eventually it will be ejected and it goes out to be its own entity. So the relationship between the cause and the effect, between the Ila and the Olol, is only that the cause incorporated the effect inside of it, albeit that they're really two separate substances. That's one format of Ila v'Olol. And as he's going to explain, In Chachma, you can't have that, because in substance, in the existence of something, you can have hidden in it a secret something else, which means in the description of something. But in the essence of something is pure. The essence is indivisible, and the essence is pure. So an essence can't have a baby. Having something else embedded in you, if it is embedded in you, it's embedded in your external, it's not embedded in your essence. So since Chachma is a state of essence, in Chachma there cannot be something foreign that's not Chachma. And for that reason, the rule, this type of Ila va'olol, which is cause and effect, where the effect is of a different substance than the cause, it's only present in the cause, and then it comes out, is fundamentally impossible in Chachma. But Bina, since Bina is, in general, relative to Chachma, an external type of an experience, in the external element of something, in the form of something, in the shape, in the tzior, in the outer construct of something else can be. There can be an offshoot. There can be something there that's not exactly it, but evolves from it. But that's one, again, and we're going to understand this much better as the discourse is going to develop. But the second format is Oisha Olul Hu Adam and Eila. The second possibility is where the cause and the effect are much closer to each other. The effect is not a foreign entity that happens to find itself inside the belly, inside the womb of the other entity of the cause, but rather the effect is nothing other than a projection of the cause itself. It's like an emanation. It's a light, like a ray of light. It's a ray of the cause. So then what is it? It's not something new. It's just an emanation of the cause. And that's the second type of cause and effect. The effect, we're not dealing with an integration of two mahusim, of two substances. It's one substance, but this is more this is the inside of it more, and that is more of a light coming from it. Is a radiance from the cause, and it derives from the source, like a branch coming from a tree. A branch, you had a tree's growing, and the tree suddenly produces branches, a lot of new branches. So you had the tree stump or the tree trunk before the branch came out. And then as the tree is growing, other branches begin to come out. But the branch is the same substance as the tree, but it's only like a branch. It's no more the tree itself. It's a branch of the tree. So you're not going to say it's like a producing a child, which is something else. It's still the tree itself, but it's a... Oh, wait. And he's going to say, now here he doesn't explain why, but in the end of the chapter, he's going to say, so both these aspects are not applicable when it comes to, it's not even in the end of this chapter, it's going to be in the end of next chapter, where he's going to say how both these forms of Ila va'olol, one is that there is something foreign inside that is subtle and hidden, but that emerges out from the cause, kind of spits it out, like causes the effect to emerge out of it, but the effect was never the essence of the cause. Or if it is its essence and it's just a projection of it. These are the two formats. And both these formats are only possible in the external realm of whatever it is, and not in the substance, not in essence. And he's going to begin to explain the two formats of Ila va'olol. In our chapter 39, which we're not going to continue today, we'll leave it to the next class, he's going to first describe the first type of cause and effect, which is going to be where the cause and the effect are are not of the same substance. Then in the next chapter, he's going to give us an example of cause and effect where the effect is nothing more than a ray of the cause. And then in the end of the first paragraph of the next chapter, which is not the end of the chapter, but the end of the first paragraph of the chapter, he's going to then show us and negate how, in essence, you can't have neither of these aspects of cause and effect. And thereby showing us how Chachma is completely above and beyond the whole experience of Bina, which is all bringing to the idea of this concept that to show us how in Seder Ishtalshalus there are fundamental differences between one level and the next level. This is a very, very fundamental study that we're going to learn over the next probably 20 classes. It's going to take us to go through all of this because this rolls over into the next discourse as well, maybe 30 classes. It's going to give us a very rich understanding of Chachma and Bina, which is very fundamental in one's general study of Chassidus. So this is exciting to be able to go into this. Be'ezras Hashem. And by the way, this is going to lead us straight into the conclusion of the first chunk of the entire book. In other words, if you had to find the first complete idea developed in this massive exploration and this massive journey through the book of Ayin Beis, the first 12 discourses serve as a mesechta onto its own, a tractate onto its own. The tractate called Or Pnimi, the internal light. We're tracing the internal light from the very, very beginning. And then in chapter 12, he's going to transition, he's going to start explaining what does it mean encompassing lights and how they're different than the internal light. But this is going to be the final, what we are starting right today is going to be the final closing. We're going to circle back to complete the idea that we began in the beginning of the discourse 2 years ago. We're going to conclude this all, as Hashem, hopefully in about a month and a half, we should be there if we stay consistent with God's help. Okay, let Mashiach be here today.